All right, Algebra 1B students, welcome to part 2 of lesson 11.1 on simplifying rational expressions. Again, in this video, we are simply factoring out and canceling what we can from two expressions on the top and bottom of a fraction. And today's video is all about recognizing opposite factors. Okay, opposite factors just means one is exactly the negative of the other. So, for example, this rational expression here, x minus 3 over 3 minus x, those two are opposites because on the top, the x is positive and the 3 is negative. And on the bottom, it's exactly the opposite. The 3 is positive and the x is negative. Okay? So what that allows us to do is factor out a negative sign or a negative 1 from the top or from the bottom. Usually I like to do it from the top so that our negative sign will stay up on the top. So I could turn this into, this x minus 3 can become negative 1 times, and then I'll just switch the sign of both, 3 minus x. So I make the x the negative and the 3 the positive. Okay? And then obviously when I put that over 3 minus x, then that can cancel out and I'm left with a negative 1. Okay? So today is all about factoring out a negative sign once you get to a certain point of the problem. So please be looking for opposite factors, which just means two factors that are the same, but one is the negative of the other, or everything is negative in one of the factors. Okay, so the simplest version that you'll see in your practice problems today is like letter A right here. 2x minus 5 over 5 minus 2x. Notice on the top the 2x is positive, on the bottom it is negative, and the opposite for the 5s. The top has a negative 5, the bottom has a positive 5. So if I factor out a negative 1 from the top, this will become negative 1, and then on the top I will flip the sign of everything because I'm pulling out a negative sign. Okay, I'm pulling out a negative sign, so I flip the sign of everything, so it becomes 5 and a minus 2x instead of 2x and a minus 5. The bottom still is 5 minus 2x, so I can cancel that with that. And now on the top I'm left with a negative 1. On the bottom I have nothing. But remember, in this case, when we're factoring and canceling, it's all about dividing. So when we divide everything away and there is nothing left, we still have a 1. So negative 1 over 1, or just a negative 1, would be my simplified form there. Right? Now, please remember from yesterday, we do still have to include any excluded values. There are certain values that do not work in this particular function, and we find those by setting the bottom equal to 0 and solving. What we would find is that x cannot be equal to 5 over 2, which is 2.5. Cannot be equal to 2.5. Okay? So for our answer in letter A, we would say the simplified version is negative 1, but x cannot equal 5 over 2. Okay, x cannot equal 5 over 2. Now, if I look at letter B, I'll rewrite that over here. I'm going to transfer it down. Letter B says this: y squared minus 16 over 4 minus y. Okay. Now, I need to factor the top of this and see what my two factors are. I see a y squared. This is what tells me I need to factor it. I need to factor it into two pieces with parentheses. And there are 0 y's here, so what I'm looking for is two numbers that multiply to be negative 16 but add up to be 0, which I believe are negative 4 and positive 4. And I have a y there and a y there. Okay, so whenever there's no y piece in the middle, look for two numbers that cancel each other out, but multiply to be 16 in this case. Y minus 4 times y plus 4 in the bottom now is 4 minus y. Now, at this point, I can't cancel anything, But I want you to notice that this factor here, y minus 4, and this factor here, 4 minus y, are exact opposites of each other. One has a negative y and a positive 4, the other has a positive y and a negative 4. So I will factor out a negative 1 from the top, flip the signs of negative 4 minus y instead of y minus 4. Now I do still have a y plus 4 on the top, and the bottom, again, is just 4 minus 1. Okay, so I factored my y squared minus 16. I then factored out a negative 1 to flip the sign of one of those factors, so that now I can cancel, and all I am left with is a negative 1 times y plus 4. And that'd be a perfectly fine answer, or if you wanted to distribute, say, negative 1 minus 4, I would take that as well. Okay, either one of these is okay. Those are fine. But once again, we must list our excluded values. We must list our excluded values. So I will look here at the denominator of my fraction. I will say that equals 0. 4 minus something equals 0. I believe the y value there would be 4. That makes that 0. So I know that y cannot equal 4 because that would make the bottom 0. So here's my simplified form here. Negative 1 times y plus 4, or negative y minus 4. But y cannot equal 4. That's not allowed. Now I will copy down letter C for you. I would like you to do that one. Letter C says 3 minus 9d over let's go with d squared minus 5b plus 4. I would like you to solve this or simplify this by factoring, finding a negative sign, and then canceling out, simplifying. Please also make sure to list any excluded values that you might find. So pause the video, take a look at that problem there, simplify this and list any excluded values, then come on back and I'll show you what we should get. Okay, now on the top I see a 3 that I can pull out. 3, and then this will be 1 minus d. The bottom, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be a positive 4, but add to be a negative 5. Multiply to be a positive 4 would be a negative 1 and negative 4. Those add up to be a negative 5. So at this point, I cannot cancel anything out, but this factor and this factor are opposites of each other. So I will pull out a negative sign as well, turn the top into a negative 3, and now that is d minus 1. The bottom is d minus 1, d minus 4. The d minus 1s cancel out, and I am left with negative 3 over d minus 4. Okay, so there's my simplified version, but I must list my excluded values. So when I set this equal to 0, I factor it once again into d minus 1, d minus 4 equals 0. So my two options here are d equals 1, which means d cannot equal 1, and d cannot equal 4. So there are my excluded values. There's my simplified version. Simplified form here, excluded values there. If you have questions about factoring out a negative sign before we cancel. Please make sure you make a note to ask me that in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful night.